So Runway ML, a text-to-video generation platform, just announced their Generation 3 sort of model to produce video. And very shortly after it was available for testing to a select few people, now it's available to everybody. So yes, you can try it out right now. And I gotta say, it's decent. It's good. And I'm not just talking about the cherry-picked shots like the best of the best. I'm talking about most of the stuff it produces is pretty good. So in this video, let's take a look at what it can do, how to get the best results out of it, what kind of prompting techniques to use to really spice it up. So I'm going to be rating the stuff it produces. So this is not cherry-picked. We're not getting the best stuff. We're looking at every single prompt I give it. We're going to look at what it produced and we're going to rate it. Now, we're not going to be too picky about it. We'll give 1 or 2 stars for just things that are just like nonsense, where it doesn't even make sense what we're looking at. 3 is decent with some AI video glitches, but some interesting visual video things to look at. And 4 or 5 is going to be the better ones that are pretty good, even if they have glitches. So first one is this drone that approaches a waterfall and a cliff before plunging down to the bottom. I gotta say, this looks pretty good. It's not really plunging down, but the water, the greenery, the little water mists, the vapors that are coming off of it are incredible. I'm gonna give this one a 5. Here's a realistic documentary shot of a high-resolution focused large crab walking on the beach covered in opulent jewels, geodes, and pearls. The crab sparkles and glitters in the sunlight dynamic camera. I gotta say, that's pretty good. I mean, it's a little bit funky, but it's an interesting shot. I like looking at it. The video quality is high. You got the beach, the crab. I think I'm giving this one a 4. We have a dreamscape of monsters at a house party shot on an iPhone camera. I really like this one. It's one of the better ones. There's a human kind of in the background right here, which is a little bit weird, but kind of his little shuffling. But how it zooms in on the person's face, the fact that it turns from left to right while still remaining consistent, I got to give it credit for that. The wavy hair / dreadlocks, whatever that is looking really good. I'm liking everything about this. I'm going to give it a 5. Here's a drone shot flying between neon-colored buildings, a futuristic stage visuals, dynamic movement. I like the second part of the shot especially well. I mean, everything about it is good, but when the sun sets and the city lights up, I gotta say, that's really good. Later, we'll talk about how to improve some of these shots by using the Runway ML, what they recommend to use in the prompts. Some of it really helps to bring out the specific things that you want. All right, so here's a POV, point of view, of a snowmobile rider on a snowy road with mountain views. I gotta say, everything there looks absolutely great. I think I can see a digital display here at the bottom. So yeah, I guess this is one of those snowmobiles. I mean, it looks really good. You got the lens flare, you got the kind of that fisheye, the mountains, the snow. It's excellent. I'm gonna give this a 5. Here's a cinematic time-lapse shot of a woman reading a flaming, burning book while many people are walking around her in a busy city of Tokyo at night. I gotta say, this looks great. I really like everything about it. The blurred backgrounds, the lighting, the light, the fire that's kind of lighting up her face. You can really see the light of the flames kind of dancing on her shirt, on her face, on her hair. Really good. I'll give it a 5 out of 5. Now, I'm sure some of you might be going, okay, are you just going to give everything a 5 out of 5 so far? I think there's just the crab that received a 4 out of 5 stars, but as you'll see in a bit, you're going to see some drop off in quality with some specific prompts in the later videos. So just give it time. I will be handing out 1 and 2 star ratings, I promise. So this prompt, the previous prompt with the lady in Tokyo, and the next few are ones that I found online with people generating something, and I want to see how well does it do if I just use the same exact prompt, how well does it translate. So this, for example, is a burlesque dancer drinking a beer. Let's take a look. So looking good, and something goes really weird when the bottle connects to her mouth, her lips. She kind of just like swallows half of it. It's a bit weird. That's not how you drink from a bottle. I'm tempted to give it some extra points just for how like hilarious it is. But the thing is, the beginning of the shot where she's dancing, that's really good. The lighting, the movement, everything. And it's just that little, I don't know what is happening there, but I'll give it a 3. Although if we're looking just at the beginning, that would have been a 5. So all the way up to where she's raising the glass, that would have been a 5, I feel like. So here's a beautiful woman in a black dress manipulating flames with her hands. So like that's looking really good. Although I gotta say the hands are out of the shot for most of the time. So maybe that's not the best example of that, but I'll give that a 4 out of 5 because it's a little bit not quite what we asked for, but everything else about it is very good. Opens on a lush, vibrant forest. camera positioned low on the forest floor. A large, fluffy blue monster playfully hops into view. I gotta say, I mean, that's pretty good. So it's a little bit goofy looking, but I gotta say, I mean, if we're saying like a large, fluffy blue monster playfully hops, right? I think it makes sense for it to be that. So it's probably great. I'll probably give it 4 or 5 stars on this one. Here's a close-up view of an elegant redhead woman looking out of a train window. It's dawn and the sun is reflected on her face. She looks happy. Outside, you can see the Italian countryside cinematic shot. Gotta say, that's a perfect 5 out of 5. Everything about it is exactly as described. The video quality is good. You can tell, I mean, that could very easily, yeah, I mean, sure, it looks like the Italian countryside, certainly cypress trees and the rolling hills, absolutely. This, if you recall, Sora, when it was announced, even though, you know, it hasn't been released, but they had one where the scuba diver goes and finds a hidden futuristic shipwreck. So I've used kind of some of that prompt. A scuba diver discovers a hidden futuristic shipwreck. Now, I got to give it minus points for not having a scuba diver anywhere in there. Maybe it's thinking this is a scuba diver, who knows? But I got to say, the underwater futuristic shipwreck, I mean, it's not exactly what that is, but it looks pretty good. Like the fact that it's like this weird alien looking spaceship that's underwater, it gets a lot of credit from me for doing that. That's got to be a hard shot to make. So I would be maybe 3 or 4 stars on this one just because it missed some of the things, but just the video quality, everything about it looks pretty good. I'm pretty impressed. Here's an extreme close-up of a 24-year-old woman's eye blinking during magic hour. Magic hour, if you're not familiar with photo shoots and stuff like that, there's a very special time, kind of like right around sunset, where the sun kind of hits a certain angle in the sky that creates this kind of golden hour that they call like golden hour, golden light, which is just incredible for certain shots. You see it a lot in movies, especially if it's like a romantic movie. Sometimes they'll meet on the beach for this like final, you know, epic moment. It's probably not going to be during noon or morning or whatever. It's probably going to be during that golden hour, that magic hour where everything is kind of golden, pretty, and perfect. And so it really captures that. This to me is a perfect 5 out of 5 video. Absolutely stunning. And it just nails everything about the prompt, and the video quality is perfect. All right, next we have historic footage of California during the gold rush. Really good. I mean, the letters are nonsense. Some of the things that people are doing, it's a little bit, you know, questionable in terms of like, okay, where's he going? What's he doing? He's walking next to that cart. And then what is this cart? Is this a horse-drawn carriage? Is it a train? Why is there smoke coming out of it? But still, just if you don't look at the details too much, it did nail the historic footage. This is California, likely gold rush. It's got that old school golden yellow kind of like grainy footage feel. I like it. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Here's the camera follows behind a white vintage SUV as it goes down a winding mountain road. So the quality is good, but there's a lot of things that it does miss, right? It's not behind the SUV for one, but there's things that I'm liking about it. It did nail, I mean, you can see that in the background behind the SUV, if you're looking through the windshield, it's consistent with the shot. You see those trees, they line up with the other trees. There's a lot of good things happening here. So I don't know, 3.5 stars. Here I'm testing the same sort of prompt, just tweaking one variable to see how that makes it different. Does it completely change scenes or it's different? So here is the same prompt, but instead of a, whatever I said before, retro SUV, now it's a tank, but it's still not behind the tank. It's still from that front perspective. As the turret kind of faces the camera and goes past it, it gets a little bit weird, right? It kind of like fades and almost seems like, I'm curious if the rumors about some of these companies using, for example, Unreal footage or, you know, Unreal renderings from that game engine to train these models on, if that's true. I'd be curious to know like what would explain the turret becoming kind of transparent or like clipping in certain portions as it kind of passes head on at the camera. It's interesting to think about. I'd give this one 4 stars, actually. It's pretty impressive. Here's the same exact prompt, but instead of a tank or an SUV, it's a supercar. And this one follows the prompt perfectly. It is following behind the car. It hits everything. A little bit boring, but it did nail it. I guess I'd give this a 5. Although I'm tempted to take points off because it's just kind of boring. I mean, really, the prompt is it's a supercar going down a winding mountain road. It's kind of have more action than this, but still really good. A dog on a skateboard wearing glasses. Actually, okay, so it did have glasses for a second there, and then the glasses disappear. But all in all, and the skateboard, the wheels look pretty weird. I think it's missing a few wheels. Not a skateboarder, so I don't know for sure. But as a skateboarding layman, I would say that doesn't look right. But everything else is perfect. I love the sun in the background, the road. You can see the texture on the concrete, the big floppy ears bouncing up and down. There's a lot of things here that are great. I'm giving this a 5. I know people will complain because it's not, perfect anatomy, rendering, but I don't care. It looks good. Here's a first-person shooter set in a monastery. Everything about it looks great. It's got the little heads-up display here in the corner in the bottom left. You can't see it. I'm talking about this thing right here. But again, very blah. I'd give this a 4 out of 5. Here, same prompt, but set in a lush forest. This to me is a 5 out of 5. It's beautiful. It's atmospheric. You got the fog, the green, the branches that are kind of, as you're moving, kind of like fading away. Everything about this is just absolutely phenomenal. It's got some weird like little artifacts or whatever, some markers in the map, which I guess if it's a first person shooter, sometimes you do have those like markers where your teammates are or where the objectives are. So, but that's a 5 out of 5 for me. All right. So for those of you that are complaining that I'm only giving the best of scores and I'm being overly generous, we are now entering the suck. So the prompt here is, so again, first person shooter. Instead of guns, they use birds, right? So maybe I was a little bit vague on that one, but notice from the get-go, it's like, what are we even looking at, even without playing it? But let's continue. Let's see how well this evolves. So first of all, there's no movement. Oh, there's a little bit of movement, but it's choppy. Things kind of morph in and out of view. It's bad. I'd give this a 1. It's nonsensical. I have no idea what we're looking at. The bird is morphing and who knows. I guess it could have been better if it was a little bit more smooth how the bird comes and lands on I'm guessing that's a bayonet of the rifle. That would have been cool, but it doesn't come together. So 1 star for that bird one. This one is a scary walk through a latent space town, creepy mannequins, first person with like a flashlight that you're using to look around. I just realized it's called a liminal space, not a latent space. Latent space is an AI term, and I think because I've been using it, I goofed up. So there's this idea of a liminal space. An idea there's certain spaces that kind of like disconnect us from reality. It's a whole thing. I messed up. That prompt should have been scary walk through a liminal space town. So, I want to give this a 1 star, but the thing is I screwed up the prompt. So I guess I'm not going to judge it too harshly. First person boxing failed to generate. First person MMA failed to generate. Here's bodybuilder on a motorcycle. I'll give this 3 stars. I mean, it's okay, but there's just not too much motion, not too much movement. It's pretty boring. Here's a bodybuilder running on a rooftop. There's a lot of things that are great here, although he starts skipping at some point. And the kind of the rooftop, the right side of the screen, the bottom right, is a little bit weird. I'm not sure what we're looking at, but I'm really loving the scenery in the background. We're overlooking the city. And I guess if the prompt was he's running and then he starts skipping, then certainly we would give a lot of points for that. So I don't know, 3 or 4 here, I guess, depending on how you want to judge it. Large monster rising out of the London River is an error. Large trash monster destroying a city is excellent. I got to give this a 5 out of 5. Really good how they generated everything. And you can see like the mouth, the eyes, everything about it is perfect. The city's in the background. You can kind of imagine that it's, destroying the city. Here's a nuclear explosion over a city. It's all right. I don't know if that's a nuclear explosion. That just seems like this would be like more like a bomb going off or some plant blowing up, but it's okay. We have a nuclear explosion over the ocean, which again, this is more like a ship being blown up. It's not a nuclear explosion. So those two, I'd give probably a 3 out of 5. A cat blacksmith. There's a lot of things I like about this because it certainly feels like the cat is like very animated, very like humanoid and like hammering away at the stuff. So there's a lot of things I like about it. I want to give this a 4 out of 5. It's neat. You have a cat running through a neighborhood with a GoPro POV point of view. So it's pretty good. I like it. There's like a whole channel on YouTube where they attached a GoPro to this cat. And apparently this cat is a jerk. It goes around and it fights all the other cats in the neighborhood. I don't know what country it's in. Maybe, I'm going to guess China. I think it's China. It's like a, fairly modern city, big city in China. It's got the multi-story, not high rises, I guess, the flats. And there's just this cat. It's got the GoPro and it's just like zooming under cars and through the various spaces. And it's just looking for the cats. And if it finds a cat, like it doesn't fight them, like it doesn't attack them. It just stands there and it gets like right up to their face like this. And it just goes, makes that high pitched meowing sound right in their face. And if they run away, it freaking chases them all over the place. It's horrible. It's absolutely terrible. And I can't stop watching it. It's mesmerizing. So I was trying to recreate that here. And I gotta say, it did a pretty good job. I'll give this a 4 out of 5. I wish the cats were a little bit more consistent where it is. It's not a GoPro point of view. Here's another one. So POV cat running through a neighborhood. So this one's better. By the way, so I've generated all those in 5-second clips. Some of the later ones we extended to 10 seconds. So this is just a quick 5-second clip. It's pretty good. This is more of a flying thing. It doesn't feel like it's attached to a cat, but I gotta give it 4 out of 5 for everything else looking pretty good. Then we have a racing video game through a city. I absolutely love it. You got the crowds, you got the cars, you got the buildings. It's good. 5 out of 5. Racing bike video game through a night rain city. Again, 5 out of 5. I'm really liking it. I didn't specify first person or third person. It did third person and it's looking really good. It's night. It's a city. It's raining. Beautiful. Bald hitman in a shootout using 2 pistols. And this one gets a 1 star out of 5 stars because I have no clue what's happening there. I don't know what he's holding. I don't know what he's pointing at. I don't know what he's looking at. I don't know what that is. Everything about this is very confusing, and 1 star. I'm just gonna say 1 star. Here's a female soldier in a shootout using 2 pistols. So this is not 2 pistols, but I gotta say, the movements and, the leg movements are weird. So there's a lot of weirdness that is happening here. But other than that, there's a lot of good things that's happening here. Like other than this little moment, right? How she crouches down. She's always looking through, the aiming down the barrel, which I like that. So yeah, there's a lot of problems, but there's some good stuff here. I want to give this like a 4 out of 5. Here's a point of view of a bullet flying through a busy street. This to me is a 5 out of 5. It definitely captures a lot of the stuff that I was looking for, kind of like that bullet time, hyper-realistic thing. It's got all the debris flying, which usually when you see shots like this, it's an action shot, slow motion. So there's always some debris flying. So it kind of like infers that, oh, we probably need that stuff in there. But I like it. 5 out of 5. This one is weird. So this is a point of view of a bird flying through a busy street. So it's one of those, again, I'm taking the same prompt and just tweaking one variable to see how well it goes. So here's that bird flying through a busy street. And I'm a little confused about how to grade this one because the video quality is excellent. It's really good. You're obviously in a tram of some sort of a vehicle, like a tram, I assume. Maybe it's a bus, but it's not a bird. It missed that part. It's not a bird flying. I'll give it a 4 out of 5 just for the quality alone. The quality is good. Here's the point of view of a skydiver. It's pretty good, right? It's not quite sure what's happening with the two, as you're holding the parachute, the cords that go up to the parachute, but it nailed that kind of curvature of the earth and how the ground looks from that high up. There's a lot of things that are good here. 3.5 stars. Here's motorcycle racing, rainy night. So it chose to go with the first person view. And I gotta say, I love it. If you look at the reflections of the light, everything's looking great. And it's almost like we're transitioning from a, cloudy, rainy day into night as we're getting into the city. I gotta say, I like it. I like it. I want to give this like a 4 out of 5, maybe even a 5 out of 5, just because of how cool looking it is. So here's a female soldier, World War II. So I got to say the specifying male, female for certain roles works very poorly. Probably just not enough of, data for certain things. So certainly if you said soldier, they will make a male soldier in general. That's going to look a lot better. We have an animated toaster talking to a human. So I don't know what's happening here. I would give this like a 2 out of 5. It's not really following the prompt. It's not that cool. It's not that interesting. And it says toast to or I don't know. It just says or. Who knows? What did I say? 2 out of 5? I think that's fair. And this one's like a 3, maybe even a 4 out of 5. I mean, it did nail the prompt perfectly. Although now that I think about it, this is probably not World War II. This seems far more high-tech gadgets than World War II. Then we have mythical creatures at a house party. And there's a lot of cool things here. You got the dragon as the DJ. You got whatever that thing is, like a floating ball with wings that's puking in the fountain, or I don't know what's going on here. So I love the 2 little scenes that they set. I want to give it a good score, but it's also just nonsensical. So I don't even know what to do here. I'm going to go with, I guess I have to give it a 3 out of 5. Although I kind of almost want to see where it would take this if you gave it some creative room to just say, run with this and let's see where this goes. And then we have monsters at a house party. Again, it's got some like Muppet sort of things going on. Now, the reason that I'm doing some of these prompts over again is I'm trying to figure out what's the best way of prompting it. And in a minute, we'll get into actually what works well, what doesn't. Because keep in mind, I'm showing you every single thing that I've prompted and created that it didn't fail to generate in the exact same order that I've created them. You're seeing my kind of stream of consciousness here as I'm testing different stuff out to see what works, what doesn't. Later, I read up on how Runway ML actually recommends you do it. That's how I approach things. I don't know if you do too. I dive in and I just kind of mess around with it. And then I read the documentation if I end up doing that at all. But I gotta say that the prompting that produces the best results isn't the one that Runway ML recommends. And it isn't even the one that I'm using here with the, what I want, comma, here's some more things that I want to kind of like split them up. Even that one doesn't really produce the greatest stuff. So here, for example, it's fast moving drone shot, waterfall. Yeah, I mean, it's good. So I'll give this a 5 out of 5. But in general, here's a fast moving drone shot, skyscraper. Again, good, but kind of basic. Here's man in trench coat dodging bullets, comma, slow motion. So that whole thing about separating with commas, that works really well with certain AI models to prompt them. This one isn't one of them. This one, not sure why, just tends to produce not the best stuff. Here's woman in fitness clothes dodging bullets, slow motion. Again, just not super what we're looking for. I mean, there's like some good motion, but there's water, like there's a lot of stuff here. Like this is like a 2 out of 5 for me. Here's another one, woman in fitness clothes, parkour. Again, a lot of nonsense happening here. Yeah, like a lot of these I would say are 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 5. Here's woman in fitness clothes, taekwondo. So I'm using the same prompt, just changing what they're doing, right? So here's one of them is like a shootout. One is taekwondo. One is parkour. But again, so this is looking like, to me, is like 2 out of 5 stars, kind of like the old AI videos. So something about this prompting approach just doesn't produce good results. Here's gladiators in the arena. So they're kind of like fighting with what appears to be at one point a scimitar or something and then changes into a frying pan. I'm not sure. Then the same thing, female gladiators in the arena. So spot what it did to change up the scene to make them look female. Because I mean, they still got beards, but I think the only thing that it added is kind of like the, what would you call it? The chest support, I guess, a garment, chest support garment. That's the only thing that really changed when we wanted these gladiators to be female. Also, it does seem that the guy on the right, at some point, his thing changes into a RPG, doesn't it? Next, I briefly test out the lip sync. So here's a royal Viking king speaking. So he kind of like holds up his arms and yells. So I decided to add my voice to it, just kind of what that sounds like.
I declare that there will be AI video, and it will be available for all.
That's all right. There's a number of other videos that I did, but a lot of them were just me testing out the different prompting mechanisms and see what works, what doesn't. Now, Runway ML does recommend this prompting guide for their Generation 3, and here's what they recommend. They're recommending starting with the camera movement, colon, so like low angle static shot, colon, then you do the establishing scene, then you put a period, so the camera is angled up at a woman wearing all orange as she stands on a tropical rainforest with colorful flora, right? And then you do additional details. The dramatic skies, overcast and gray. So I've tested this approach. It doesn't necessarily produce the best things for me. Your mileage may vary, but it's definitely something to try. However, there's a number of other things, the prompt keywords as they call them, that are very, very, very useful. And certainly I encourage you, if you're testing this out, to try these out. So for example, for the various camera styles, these work very, very well. So for example, we have low angle with the camera kind of below the subject. We have high angle with the camera above it, overhead. So overhead shooting down. FPV. So this is first person view. So I've tried FPV, I've tried spelling out first person view, I've tried saying POV. They all work. It seems like FPV does produce, more consistently the accurate first person view. By the way, is this a first person view? I mean, to me, this is a third person view of the bubble, I guess, unless you're flying behind the bubble. This is your perspective. Then handheld, wide angle, close up. Close up usually works very, very well. This definitely use it if you want this kind of close up on somebody's face. Macro cinematography, so that really close up for, plants and insects and stuff like that. If you want to close up on an eyeball, for example, this would work well. We have over the shoulder tracking, establishing wide shots. So in movies or stuff like that, if they're like trying to tell you we're here now, right? They'll do this establishing wide shot. For example, 50 millimeter lens. I was trying to figure out what they call this sort of type of shots. So that's different from like a camcorder where you're holding a camcorder in front of you, or like a selfie shot. They refer to it as a snorri cam. I haven't heard that term before, I don't think, but this produces often some pretty cool shots. And then we have the realistic documentary. You can also specify lighting styles, diffuse lighting, silhouette, lens flare, backlit, side lit, various colors or Venetian lighting, movement speeds. So this one is very, very good, very useful. So you want some crazy flying action, say dynamic motion. In fact, for my drone shots, I started getting some really good looking drone shots when I added this dynamic motion keyword to the prompt. We can also do slow motion and even have hyperspeed and time lapse. So two kind of different ones, depending on what kind of look you're trying to capture. Movement type. So this was very useful for certain specific things. You can have something grow, right? You can say this couch grows or whatever. Emerges tends to have some sort of like an upward movement towards the camera. Explodes, ascends, undulates, warps, transforms, ripples, shatters. Shatters works very well, right? Sometimes you just need that kind of shattering effect of something. We have unfolds, vortex. You'll notice this little blanket starts kind of like getting sucked up into the fan that's above it. And of course, various styles. This sometimes worked for me, sometimes not. We have moody, cinematic, iridescent, home video, VHS, glitch core. And then they also give some suggestions as far as the text styles. So actually describing the text, how you want it. Do you want it to be bold, graffiti, neon, varsity, embroidery, etc.? Apparently it does pretty well at displaying those. The rest of these videos were me testing out the different prompting mechanisms. The thing that they suggest, that Runway ML suggests, didn't really work for me all that well. So for example, this one I'm using their prompting way of saying snorri cam, cat moving in tall grass. This isn't that. Here's that prompting attempt again, extreme close-up shot, 24-year-old woman's eye blinking, slow motion during magic hour. I mean, it got it, but it wasn't as good as the first one that I used just a normal prompting for. Here we're doing that again, saying first person view, superbike racing. I mentioned hyperspeed. I'm not sure if we're seeing hyperspeed. Well, I mean, maybe you can see these little things flying. Here's an over the shoulder tracking shot. And then kind of that same dreamscape of monsters at a house party, kind of. But again, the results aren't great. Here's that same prompt saying dynamic motion. Again, this is not an over the shoulder tracking shot. Here's another attempt at it, over the shoulder tracking shot. And again, this feels a little bit closer, but it's also kind of like wild and jumbled up. Here's a tracking shot, man running through busy street, hyperspeed. Yes, I mean, it definitely seems like it got that. Here's overhead, two people coming together for a hug, slow motion. Again, kind of weird, not really what we're looking for. Low angle shot. Dark moonlit cemetery, skeleton emerges, not really what we're looking for. Here's a first person view, luscious jungle with sun rays falling, woman emerges out of water. Yeah, I feel like it nailed that prompt. Here's third person camera, underwater spaceship wreck, scuba diver swimming closer. Again, this is not a third person of a scuba diver. Although I gotta say, maybe if we're talking about a spaceship wreck, assuming this is the spaceship wreck, then this would be the third person. So So here's a third-person camera, beautiful snowy mountains, man snowboarding down. This is a high-speed GoPro point-of-view shot with a cyclist that's starting their rapid descent down a hill. This is looking pretty good. This nailed it. Certainly this looks like a GoPro shot. Here's some historic footage of Mayan culture, which is pretty cool. You got the priest or whatever on top of the Mayan pyramid. Here's first-person shooter against the monster. That's looking pretty good. Blair Witch style shot moving through a deserted mine. Blair Witch style shot moving through a deserted forest. Blair Witch style shot moving through a deserted town. First-person view SWAT team. First-person view Formula One racing. That's looking pretty good. But my point with this is that this sort of prompting style is not necessarily the best one that I found. So this is the one that they recommend. I'll give this one like a B+. I mean, it works okay, but it doesn't produce the best stuff. I've also tried one where like I'll say one important keyword or an important subject, then comma, another one, comma, another one, maybe 2 or 3 of these, such as ocean sunrise, man on a surfboard, eagles flying overhead. This one, it does not work that well. I'll give this one a B. The best ones have just literally been the ones where I didn't think too much about it. This one is extreme close-up of a 24-year-old woman's eye blinking during magic hour. I didn't think too much about how I prompted it, just kind of put down what I was thinking about, wasn't really going for any specific format. This one is the POV of a snowmobile rider. Again, just wrote what I wanted to see in whatever way it made sense. A dog on a skateboard wearing glasses. And this was a dreamscape of monsters at a house party shot on an iPhone camera. So again, just my best advice is just to experiment, not worry too much any specific way of prompting, because to me, it almost seems like if you get overly complicated with it, you lose the natural ability of this model to produce the best images, the best video. If you just throw a few words at it, keep it simple, kind of describe what you want, it seems to more often than not produce something cool looking. And if you're bored, you can check out the Runway Watch, which I think just has some of the best user-generated and artist-generated footage and little short movies or music videos where Runway ML is used to produce the graphics. So this is, for example, Alice in Wonderland down the rabbit hole, kind of using Runway ML. So this was probably Gen 2 that they were using to create this sort of like intro for a movie trailer, if you will. Stuff like this. But let me know what you think. Did you find this good, bad, horrible? Do you feel like it's getting better at a rapid pace? Is it approaching what you think Sora is? Do you think Sora was just something that was kind of cherry-picked and the stuff that we have might be as good as Sora, if not better? Let me know in the comments. I'm very curious to know what you think, and I can't wait for this stuff to keep getting better. I think there's a whole future of AI movie makers and AI storytellers that are going to use this technology to create some pretty incredible stuff, and I can't wait to see that. With that said, my name is Wes Roth, and thank you for watching.